What's going on, Jerome's Raw Real Garage Rant is back in effect, and the whole question coming into this week was who were the Vikings going to start at quarterback against the Raiders? Was it going to be Josh Dobbs, the Passionate, who came out of the gate hot, but sort of cooled off against the Broncos and the Bears, the veteran Nick Mullins, or rookie Jaren Hall? Now, Hall, aka the Mormon Missile, certainly is intriguing. I think that there's an outside chance that maybe he could be the QB of the future. And I understand people will be like, oh, he's too short, he's a fifth-round pick. It's a non-zero chance. I'm not saying it's a huge chance. I'm not saying that's something that you should wager a jelly bean or two on. But could Jaren Hall be the guy? Sure. He's the guy that Kwesi Adofo-Mensah and Kevin O'Connell looked through in the draft, selected. He's been with the team, been in the offense all offseason, all training camp, was QB2 when Nick Mullins went on IR. Fully understand that. But they're rolling the dice with Josh Dobbs, and it's fitting because the Vikings offense, they got to gamble. I mean, the defense has been rock solid, but they just haven't been able to get anything going consistently offensively, especially the last two games. Now, I understand why they went with Dobbs, because you could easily bench Dobbs as opposed to flip-flopping back and forth. And Kevin O'Connell, with the bye week, with Wes Phillips, they design, if they design an offense that is predicated on Josh Dobbs' skill set, namely using his mobility as a weapon, then I'm in. I'm absolutely in. And the whole thing about Jaren Hall is, yes, he does have some mobility. Yes, he throws an accurate ball. Yes, he does have a strong arm. I love his leadership skills. Like everything that we talked about before the Falcons game, it's still valid. Like I'm still very hyped about Jaren Hall, and also the fact that he looked really damn good on that second drive, man. Also, if he just scored at the goal line as opposed to just being concussed, Daddy would have been very rich. Doesn't matter. But the whole thing about it is, I understand the reasoning from some Vikings fans where we got to see what we have in Jaren Hall. But also, I'll posit we're not to that point yet. All right, so the Vikings 6-6, still currently the 6th seed in the NFC, and yes, they got to start taking care of business because losing the last two games in excruciating fashion, literally giving the game away, has put the Vikings' ass in the jackpot. So they got to start racking up and stacking up some wins, and now is not the time for evaluation. Now, God forbid, knock on wood, if the Vikings do happen to lose against the Raiders and maybe the Bengals, and then I think all bets are off, right? Because then at 6-8, it could be evaluation time, right? But as of right now, I do think that, again, lots of ifs and buts were candies and nuts. Every day would be Christmas. But if O'Connell and Phillips are going to cater the offense to what Josh Dobbs does well, and if Josh Dobbs stops turning the freaking ball over, then I think that he does give the Vikings the best chance right now. Also, it's funny, like no one's in the corner of Nick Mullins. Like, it is a three-headed race, according to Kevin O'Connell, but everyone's like, it's either Dobbs or it's Hall. No one is like, hey, let's see what Nick Mullins got. But I understand the slight edge going to Dobbs because, I mean, in the back of Kevin O'Connell's mind, like he has to be like, hey, look how we operated in the second half against the Falcons, and especially with an extra week of practice, how he looked in the first half against the Saints. Now, I do squarely put the blame on Kevin O'Connell for the Broncos and the Bears game especially, because that game plan was garbage. But again, lots of ifs in this, lots of qualifiers. If they build around what Josh Dobbs does well, I think the Vikings can win some games. Also, you have to factor in Dobbs has not played with JJ, so that the best wide receiver in the game has entered the chat. So that certainly does change some things. And like we said, it's not really like Madden. You can't really go back and forth. Like there is when you bench a quarterback, like that is crossing the Rubicon. You can't go back and forth. This isn't a Zach Wilson situation, man. So Kevin O'Connell still has that in his back pocket. Like if Dobbs plays like ass, thank you, turns the ball over, I think that you could and should make the switch either to Jaren Hall or Nick Mullins, preferably Jaren Hall. Right? Because, again, I still have some faith in the Mormon Missile, but also I think Kevin O'Connell, he said something to the effect of he wants to progress him in the right way. Paraphrasing here, but that's essentially the gist of it. Where, I mean, Jaren Hall is going to be here for 4 years. He is going to be on his rookie deal, and he'll be in the mix, whether as a backup or potentially the guy for the next couple of years. So this isn't necessarily sink or swim for him right now. But with Dobbs, I mean, Dobbs is going to be a free agent, and I mean, I guess there still is an outside chance that maybe he's the guy, but probably not. I think that they do run it back with Kirk Cousins and Jaren Hall and rookie TBD. But again, the Vikings, they got to start racking up some wins. Does Josh Dobbs in an offense suited for him give you the best chance to beat the Raiders on Sunday? Yes. I think bottom line, that's what it comes down to, because you got to live for right now. It's a one-game playoff for the Vikings. And, Jaren Hall, again, he could develop into something, except the Vikings aren't quite in evaluation mode yet. Although I think that, Jaren Hall does take care of the football, and turnovers have been the number one thing with the Vikings this year. But we'll see. But again, I wouldn't have been mad if it had been Jaren Hall. Again, I've been a pretty big Jaren Hall advocate, but I do understand Kevin O'Connell's rationale right at this point. But that's it. You know what to do. Comment down below. Skull, no production value.